Welcome to America Current Affairs. We're about to dive into a story that honestly feels like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood thriller, but it happened for real, just this morning. The FBI actually raided the home of a Washington Post reporter. Now, this is way more than just a shocking headline. It's a massive collision between the government's need to keep secrets and a journalist's mission to tell the truth. Let's break down what in the world is going on. And just to give you a sense of how serious this is, look at this quote. The News Guild, which is the big union for journalists, came out swinging. They called it a direct assault on the First Amendment. You know, when you hear language that strong, it's not just for show. That's basically the sound of a 5-alarm fire bell ringing for people who defend freedom of the press.
So let's get right to it. This morning, January 14th, federal agents showed up at a reporter's home, and they weren't there for a friendly chat. No, they came with a search warrant, and they were ready to conduct a full-scale raid. It's pretty stunning.
All right, so first up, let's get into the nitty-gritty of what actually happened during this raid.
So what went down was fast and it was thorough. FBI agents went through the Virginia home of this reporter, Hannah Nadesan, and they took pretty much everything. We're talking her phone, her work laptop, her personal laptop, even her watch. Now, the official story is that this is all connected to a bigger investigation into a government contractor who supposedly took classified files home. So the reporter herself wasn't the main target, but all her communications, all her work got swept right up into this mess.
And here's why going after this specific reporter is such a huge deal. See, Hannah Nadesan's job is to cover the federal government's workforce. Over the last year, she's built up a network of over 1,000 sources inside the government. Just think about that for a second. 1,000 people. Raiding her home doesn't just mean seizing her electronics. It's like firing a giant warning shot at every single person who ever trusted her with information.
So, you're probably wondering, how could a raid like this even happen in the first place? Well, this wasn't just some random event. This was made possible because of a really big and very recent change in government policy. Let's look at the new rules that basically opened the door for this.
Okay, so check out this before and after. It used to be that under something called the Garland policy, there was this really high wall protecting journalists. Forcing them to give up their sources was almost totally forbidden unless it was, to stop someone from dying immediately. But last year, that wall got knocked right down. The new Bondi policy gives prosecutors a green light to use tools like search warrants as a last resort to hunt down a leaker. The entire rulebook has been rewritten.
So why the huge change? Well, here's the official reason. According to the memo from Attorney General Bondi, it's all about stopping leaks that undermine President Trump's policies and cause harm to the American people. That's the government's justification for taking this much tougher stance on the press. But here's the thing, this fight isn't really new. At its heart, it's all about a law that's over 100 years old, a law that was written for wartime spies, not for journalists in the 21st century. So let's talk about this thing called the Espionage Act. The Espionage Act goes all the way back to 1917. It was made during World War I for a very simple reason: to catch spies and stop them from giving our military secrets to the enemy. It was never, ever designed to be used against journalists whose job is to report information to the American public, not to some foreign government.
And that brings us to the fundamental clash here. On one side, you've got the government saying, hey, we have to use the Espionage Act to protect national security. But on the other side, you've got the press saying, hold on, the First Amendment protects our job to inform the public. They argue that using an old spy law on reporters is just a way to shut down whistleblowers and keep all of us in the dark about what our government is really up to.
But here's the million-dollar question. Is every single classified document really a life or death secret? A former top government lawyer, a guy named Erwin Griswold, once admitted something pretty shocking. He said that a lot of the time, the main reason things get stamped classified isn't to protect national security, but to avoid governmental embarrassment. This makes you wonder, right? Is the government protecting critical secrets or just protecting itself from looking bad?
So, let's talk about the real-world impact. What happens when a raid like this goes down? It all comes down to a really important idea called the chilling effect.
But really, why all the outrage? You might be thinking, okay, it's just one raid on one reporter. What makes this one single event such a massive deal?
Well, the reaction from press freedom groups was instant and it was intense. They used words you almost never hear: a tremendous escalation, deeply troubling. One group even said that these are the hallmarks of illiberal regimes, basically comparing what happened to something you'd see in a country run by a dictator. This is as serious as it gets for people who believe in a free press.
All that outrage is about this chilling effect. Think of it like this. Imagine a teacher yells at one kid in class for asking a tough question.
What does the rest of the class learn? They learn to just keep their mouths shut. It's the exact same idea here. When the government makes a big public example out of one reporter or their source, countless other people who might want to blow the whistle on wrongdoing, they get the message loud and clear. Stay quiet, or you could be next. And that brings us to the most important question of all. Why should you care about any of this? I mean, even if you're not a reporter, this story has a direct impact on you. Let's connect the dots.
It's like a chain reaction, a line of dominoes. Step 1, sources inside the government get scared. Step 2, they stop talking to journalists. Step 3, really important stories about government waste or abuse of power or even public danger, they never get told. And step 4, we, the public, are left completely in the dark. Which leads to the final and most important step. When we don't know what's going on, it becomes almost impossible to hold our leaders accountable for their actions.
You know, this isn't a new problem. Decades ago, during the famous Pentagon Papers case, a Supreme Court justice named Hugo Black said it perfectly. The guarding of secrets at the expense of informed government provides no real security. His point was so simple, but so powerful. A democracy can't survive in the dark. Real security doesn't come from government secrecy, it comes from having a public that knows what's going on.
And so this entire crazy story really boils down to this one huge question. In a democracy like ours, who gets to decide what's a secret? Is it the government with its top secret stamps? Or is it us, the people, who have a fundamental right to know what's being done in our name, with our power, and with our money?
What do you think about all this? I'd really love to read your thoughts, so drop them in the comments below. And for more explainers that cut through the noise on the stories that really matter, make sure you subscribe to America Current Affairs. Thanks for watching.